in Los Angeles. The price is $8.29 a gallon for regular unleaded, $8.89 for a gallon.
I was in Iowa, and the stations had it at $1.85, but I was down to, in many cases, less than $2 a barrel, a gallon. And then I said to myself, this is great. We just hit a new high in the stock market. Everything's going good. I'm sorry, but we have to go down and take a little journey down to, we have to do something with Iran. We cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. You want to see the world exploded? You want to see a problem? And this is peanuts. And I appreciate everybody putting up with it for a little while. It won't be much longer.
You could not make that up. Calling the price of gas, quote, peanuts, while he's standing in front of the construction site for his new gold ballroom.
Donald Trump may eventually sign an Iran deal, but not because he suddenly wants peace. That is the furthest thing from what I believe to be the truth, and the part most people are completely missing. Because while everybody's arguing about Iran, the real battle is happening behind closed doors. A battle over gas prices, inflation, and public frustration. And if those pressures keep growing, Trump could find himself trapped between continuing a conflict that keeps getting more expensive or signing a deal that many of his own supporters never wanted in the first place. And that's why this story is getting so interesting. Because what looks like a foreign policy debate may actually be turning into a political survival calculation.
That was Donald Trump I don't know what you want to call it, vibing at a press gaggle this week, touting his golden ballroom behind him and calling it peanuts for the family or man or woman whose net worth has increased by more than $4 billion in 2 years on Trump's part. But for everybody else, Donald Trump's economy is, by and large, crushing the American family. And that pain is showing up nearly everywhere. 83% of Americans say the economy is fair or poor. Only 16% of Americans say it's good or excellent. Despite Donald Trump's unfounded claims that things won't be like this much longer, voters don't believe him. They don't share his optimism. 76% of voters say that economic conditions are getting worse, not better.
This is where it gets uncomfortable. Because voters can tolerate a lot of things. What they absolutely hate is uncertainty. People don't wake up wondering about negotiations. They wake up wondering why gas is so high. That's when foreign policy stops feeling foreign. The second people feel it in their wallet, the political pressure starts spreading faster than a leaked group chat screenshot.
Soaring gas prices are also fueling new questions tonight about the cost of the vehicles that we drive. CBS's Allie Bauman is at the New York Auto Show with more on how car companies are reacting. Allie.
Tarika, beyond rising gas prices, the cost of owning a car or truck is more expensive than ever. A new vehicle now more than $49,000.
Unbelievable machine.
If you're in the market for a new car, brace your bank account. The average price now more than 20% higher than pre-pandemic prices and up more than 3% since President Trump imposed tariffs on vehicles and auto parts.
It's more expensive right now to buy a car, to finance a car, to do anything with a new car than ever before.
The media keeps saying there's a tentative deal waiting for Trump's approval. Waiting for Trump, pending Trump's decision. Trump gets the final say. That's the headline. But the real question is, does Trump actually have a choice anymore? Because every day this conflict continues, the pressure gets worse. Gas prices climb, inflation fears grow, voters get angrier, and politicians start hearing about it. Trump wants the country focused on the negotiations. Voters are focused on their wallet. That's the disconnect. Because nobody pulls up to a gas station thinking about diplomatic leverage. They look at the number on the pump and decide who's getting blamed. That's how politics works. And that's the danger. The longer this drags on, the more the conversation shifts away from Iran and toward the cost. The cost of fuel, the cost of uncertainty, the cost of another conflict with no clear finish line. At this point, the pressure is bigger than the strategy, bigger than the headlines. And when that happens, leaders stop making the decision they want to make. They make the decision they can survive politically.
The fact that we are, if I can drop down for a second, into kind of the body of a campaign like this, we're at the point now where there's an air tasking order. It was mentioned by the correspondent in Israel. The air tasking order has a list 1 to N of all the targets that you want to strike. That's great. We've got the capacity to do that. The key is, for what desired end state. We don't know what that means. I mean, we can keep hitting targets every day, all day long, and have success, but that success is leading, to where?
Now, this is where the story starts getting weird, because the more you listen to what's being said, the less any of it seems to line up. Iran appears to believe they're fighting for one reason. The United States appears to be talking about something completely different. So let me get this straight. We're talking about sending American soldiers into a conflict where both sides don't even appear to agree on what the conflict is actually about? How does that make any sense? And if you're a soldier, you're saying, what exactly is the mission? You see, confusion is different. Confusion gets people killed. Confusion creates hesitation. Troops aren't sitting around questioning whether they're capable of fighting. They're questioning whether anyone can clearly explain what they're being asked to fight for. One side says this. Another side says that politicians are saying one thing. Military analysts are saying something else. The media is pushing a completely different narrative. And somewhere in the middle are the men and women who may actually have to put on the uniform and carry out the mission.
The divorce rate in the United States after hitting a 40-year low in 2009 is up 15% since then. That means as the economy has gotten better, the divorce rate has gotten worse. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here with more on this. Jill, what is happening?
I think during the recession, a lot of people felt so financially strapped that they couldn't even figure out a way to split up. According to the University of Maryland, there's 150,000 couples that waited until economic conditions got better. And that means a lot of things. It could be that till one of us got another job, could be till the equity in our house was up enough so that we could sell it and both go on. But either way, what's clear is that we have a pent-up demand, sort of a weird thing to think about, people wanting to get divorced now.
It's very weird to think about it this way, but some people are calling it sort of an economic stimulus.
Yeah, this is a little bit sobering, but it makes sense. When you have two people living in one house and then you have to have two households, we have the formation of a new house. And what happens then? Someone's either renting or buying a new place, furnishing it, going through and doing a lot of different things in their lives. And that is all stimulative to the economy.
Trump and a lot of politicians keep acting like Americans are living in fear. They're not. If Americans were truly afraid, you'd see people moving back towards stability, community, and long-term commitment. You'd see people looking for security wherever they could find it. Instead, what we're seeing is a country that largely feels insulated from the dangers that much of the world deals with every day. That's why the fear argument falls apart. People who genuinely fear for their future tend to prioritize survival. They would prioritize marriage, which our society clearly is moving away from. The average American doesn't wake up wondering whether their city will still be standing tomorrow. They don't expect foreign troops crossing the border. They don't expect bombs falling outside their window. Most Americans feel safer than almost any population in human history. That's why warnings about war don't create the reaction some politicians expect. The public isn't panicking. The public is frustrated. There's a difference.
What do you make of that and the fact that the president keeps on reiterating this idea that Iran is begging to negotiate while Iran continues to loudly deny that that is the case?
Look, and all I can say is I don't see signs that Iran is begging to negotiate. To the contrary, even though we are, quote unquote, winning the traditional war, we are destroying more things by far than Iran is. All my memories here are Vietnam. It sounds a little bit to me like Robert McNamara's Pentagon talking about body counts. But Iran is fighting a very different war. They're fighting a war against societies, against the energy infrastructure, potentially the water desalination plants of its neighbors. It's not allowing others to use the Strait of Hormuz. So we can win the quote unquote battlefield war until the cows come home. But I don't see it translating into a lasting strategic situation with the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran's nuclear program that's in our interest. I also hear nothing about war termination.
Because fear makes people seek protection. Frustration makes people seek change. And right now, Americans look a lot more frustrated than they do afraid. People aren't sitting around terrified of Iran. They're staring at grocery receipts. They're staring at rent payments. They're staring at insurance bills. They're staring at gas pumps, wondering why it suddenly costs so much money just to live a normal life. That's the conversation happening across America right now. Politicians keep talking about global threats, while voters keep talking about local costs. Politicians keep talking about military strategy, while families keep talking about their monthly budget. Those are two completely different conversations, and eventually one of those conversations wins, because the average American isn't asking whether Iran feels pressure. They're asking why they feel pressure. They're asking why every trip to the store costs more. They're asking why filling up a truck suddenly feels like a financial decision. They're asking why everything seems more expensive while politicians keep telling them everything is under control. That's why this situation is becoming so dangerous politically. Not because Americans are scared, because they're exhausted. They're exhausted from paying more. They're exhausted from hearing promises. They're exhausted from being told relief is right around the corner while their wallet keeps telling them something completely different. And that's the mistake politicians make over and over again. They think fear is driving the conversation. It isn't. Frustration is driving the conversation. Fear asks, who's going to protect me? Frustration asks, why isn't this getting better? And that second question is the one politicians hate answering because eventually voters stop looking for explanations and start looking for somebody to blame.